Hello everybody, before we get into the main show, this is Editing NBZ to remind you to send in your top 10 lists to the show. They could be your top 10 games of the year of 2024. They could be your top 10 GoTT to Coty. Whatever you want to do, send those in to us as soon as possible, because we will be recording our last Game of the Year episode in January, and you want to get those in as soon as you can. So please email those to ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com, or head over to our Discord, which is linked in the show notes. Drop them in the email channel there, and we will pick up on those when we get to our final Game of the Year podcast, which will be our GoTT to Coty podcast, happening in early January. I will also be putting out a community voting thing for Game of the Year, so head on over to the show notes, fill that in, that'll be linked everywhere, and we'll announce what the community Game of the Year was as well on that show. Alright, into the episode. Hello everyone, and welcome to This Nintendo Life, episode 286. My name is NBZ, and it's been a long time, been a while, since I've had the chance to talk to this man who still exists somehow. He's hanging in there. Here's Bally, he's back, and he's ready to rumble. Hi Bally, how's it going?
I'm good. We're both new men. NBZ.
We are new men.
We are new men.
We are men.
I've now got 2 kids,
Mm-hmm.
and you've now got 3 Game Awards.
I know, yeah, I'm a proud dad of 3 Game Awards.
You've transformed into local thunk.
Yeah, apparently.
As some people at the Game Awards.
That's what everyone's saying.
Yeah.
So my notifications blew up this morning because he mentioned me on Twitter and was like, "Hey, this isn't me. This is that guy." And so yeah, then I had a bunch of people following me and tweeting at me, and I'm like, "Okay, well, that's interesting."
So if you're coming to the podcast as a result of seeing NBZ or Naman at the Game Awards, this is the right place for you.
This is, yeah. We're going to talk about video games here, and it's all good and fun. Yeah, no, that was the most surreal thing that's happened ever, I think. I went to the Game Awards last year because we announced Rise of the Golden Idol there, and that was very cool. Met some cool people there, did cool stuff. But this year,
but were you in the second row?
No. This year was like much more surreal because like I'm literally sitting behind Sven Winky of Larian and Mark Cerny. Oh, you know, the guy who like invented PlayStation.
The ear guy.
The ear guy, the guy who wants you to send him, molds of your ear. No, he's like the lead architect behind like all PlayStation hardware. He just recently did a video on the PlayStation 5 Pro, like architecture and explaining it. Maybe one of the smartest men in the games industry, maybe one of the smartest men on earth, just sitting in front of me. And I have to relay this story because this happened and like no one else around me understood what was going on. I need the world to know about it, okay? So Video Game Donkey, right? He's like one of the most popular YouTubers of all time, and he's a meme lord, and he makes videos, and now obviously he publishes stuff with Animal Well and things going on with his publishing label, with Big Mode. And so Video Game Donkey, he always talks about Knack. Knack is a video game, obviously, that people don't really like from the PlayStation 4. It's a 3D platformer. And Mark Cerny is known for being involved with Knack, because he was involved with Crash Bandicoot back in the day. And at the PlayStation 4 reveal, like Mark Cerny was like, yeah, and I was involved in like making this game Knack. And so Donkey, as someone who always talks about Knack and just like memes on it constantly. So I see Video Game Donkey walk past this row to get to his seat on the other side, and as he walks past, he turns to Mark Cerny, the man who was involved with Knack, and he goes, "Knack, the best game, love Knack," and just fucking walks past. And Mark Cerny, I don't think he knew who that was. I don't think he knew what was happening, and I just fucking lose it. I start laughing uncontrollably behind, because I've just experienced the most ridiculous thing that's ever happened. Video Game Donkey telling Mark Cerny to his face that he loves Knack.
I think you have the advantage of you're there, second row, representing Balatro as the publisher. That's awesome. But you're probably one of the few people in these front 2 rows who is seriously in the weeds when it comes to media, podcasts, the latest hotness in terms of reviews. We obviously do this podcast. Like,
yes.
You're quite in the weeds on that stuff, more so than quite a lot of other executives.
Yeah, I can stand in a room of game industry people and name most people, basically.
Exactly. And equally, developers have very little time because they are developing their games, so they're probably not aware of all these references necessarily. So I think you're kind of the best of both worlds. So you were in a good position to understand what the hell was going on.
Like, I don't think anyone understood the gravity of that situation, and I was losing my fucking mind. So I'm glad that I was able to relay that to everybody, and now you all know, and now you can tell everybody you know that Donkey got to tell Mark Cerny that he likes Knack, which is so stupid. Anyway.
For those who are unaware, can you describe what you were wearing?
Oh, sure. I was wearing a jacket. Now, this jacket, not an ordinary jacket. I spent some time on the internet beforehand trying to find, like, what is going to be a good thing, because I wanted to go themed, right? This was inspired by Jared Tan of Devolver, back when Cult of the Lamb was nominated. I remember, so there's an article on Kotaku that doesn't happen anymore because Alyssa Makante left Kotaku, but it was the best dressed of the Game Awards, and it basically goes through, like, a bunch of red carpet pictures of people at Game Awards. I remember seeing his jacket. It was like a custom Cult of the Lamb thing, and I'm like, that's sick as hell. And I was like, if I ever go to the Game Awards, I've got to do something like themed, right? And so my goal was to find something that would be themed around the game, something like card themed, or even like, I was thinking of like, could I find like a tie-dye kind of jacket that has the swirl, the red and blue of the game? And so I was searching a bunch, and my mom actually sent me this website that had like a jumper on it that was had playing cards on it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I scrolled down on the page, and I realized that they actually have other stuff with the playing card theme. One was a regular shirt, and one was a full suit jacket. And I was like, okay, well, this seems like it could be the thing. And it was like 65 quid. It wasn't too bad, actually. And you know, it's one of those things where like, will I ever wear it again? I mean, I'll find occasions to, probably, but it was very much like an investment, and like, I just want to wear a fun thing.
I mean, when Balatro 2 gets announced, and it comes out and gets nominated in GOTY, and you go to the Game Awards, you got the jacket ready to go.
That's true. I'm ready for next time that happens. But I was like, you know, this is once in a lifetime thing, so I might as well. And so yeah, I ordered it, and it came, and I didn't know how it would go down. I was a little trepidatious about it because it's very loud. It's extremely like easy to see. But I got so many compliments on that jacket the whole night, which was very nice. And obviously, it was easy to introduce myself to people because people were like, "Oh, guess I wonder what you worked on," basically, you know. So that worked very nicely.
I think it made my job watching at home. So yeah, this is the first time in a long time I stayed up for the whole Game Awards. Obviously, I've just had a baby, so I'm doing a lot of night shift in any case, and I was like, screw it, I'm not going to work tomorrow. I'm just going to be as sleep deprived as I always am. And so I stayed up, and I was like, right, I'm looking out for MBZ, and it's like, wow, MBZ is really easy to spot on like every single wide shot. Oh my god, and now we're getting a close-up of MBZ. Oh my god, now there's another close-up. And it was just like, yep, there he is again. There he is. And not only were you the second row and wearing a loud-ass jacket, you were on the corridor, like on the aisle.
Right.
So every single time someone walked down the main aisle, there's MBZ again. And I'm just like... Yeah. Oh, it was just like this constant kick to every single, like every 10 minutes of the show. Oh, there
I just got so much screen time, basically. Yes. Yeah.
But if I hadn't known you'd been there, so maybe I'm a listener, and you might have been watching the Game Awards, I would have been like, oh my god, like that, mad. Anyway,
yeah,
very surreal.
Very surreal, extremely weird.
And to juxtapose like our two lives with you sat there second row of the Game Awards and me with this baby on my shoulder watching you and the kid, just like, could it be the more opposite right now? Like it felt very, very strange.
No, it was very cool, and yeah, it was very nice that you stayed up the whole time to watch it, and it's one of those things that like I will just not forget ever, you know. It's like it's seared into my brain, like sitting there watching those trailers in the big screen that close up, you know, seeing the first reveal of Ciri in Witcher 4, stuff like that is like, and you know, like we can talk about it briefly here, but like it was a fucking banger Game Awards for announcements. Like
it was ridiculous. I think there's the quote of Jason Schreier saying like 2 quote unquote holy shit moments, and there's like there was about 6 holy shit moments for me, and I think often my tastes are fairly narrow at times, but even for me there was so much there.
It was a very Bally focused announcement.
It was quite Bally focused,
I would say. So yeah, I mean, what was your biggest pop? What was the one that got you the most excited?
Oh, I think the most surprising was Okami. That's just that's a deep cut. I think at this point in time, that's a deep cut. 2024, just to go for Okami. And I also think Ueda's new game, I think there was every chance that we wouldn't know of that game for another decade or so. It just felt like we were never going to find out about that game. So what's it called, like Project Robot?
Project Robot, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that looked cool. I wouldn't say it looked awesome, but it looked like, wow, I cannot wait for the next Ueda game. And Witcher 4 is a very cool announcement. I'm playing Witcher 3 at the moment and really enjoying it, but I'm not that into cinematics, like we've said on the show before. And I mean, it was interesting the tale they were saying. I wonder if they already had the line, "There are no gods." There are no gods here, only monsters.
Only monsters, yeah.
Did they have that line first and then created a story to create the line? Because I feel like it was all about saying that line.
It was a long trailer. It was like 4 or 5 minutes long. Yeah, it was. But I think it was more about like building up like the world and also the reveal that yes, you're playing as Ciri in this game, which is very, very exciting.
And I honestly wasn't expecting to feel quite as excited for it as I did when I was seeing it revealed. Was what's it called? Intergalactic.
The Heretic Prophet, I believe.
Prophet. Yeah. And I immediately like looked up that song again, and it's like the Pet Shop Boys, "It's a Sin." And then I looked in the YouTube comments, and it's just like, so who's here after that trailer? I thought the vibes on that. I obviously love Naughty Dog games, and we're not the biggest spacey people out there.
No,
but,
not necessarily, yeah.
I definitely was into this, and I'm very excited.
I mean, look, the fact that she's basically using a lightsaber made out of, like, audio waves, I was like, okay, I'm kind of into that. Also, the music that starts that, like, the spacey music, has been stuck in my head since that trailer. Like, it's really... It has like an identity, really strong identity to it.
And it's not just like we've just started development. It's like we've been working on this since 2020. So, great. So I guess this is maybe 2026, 2027.
Right, feasibly only a couple of years away, which is really exciting.
Yeah, like this is actually going to come out on PS5, you would think, which at a point in time didn't feel like that was going to happen for Naughty Dog. So I think
absolutely.
That's awesome. So
we've talked a lot about, you're a big Last of Us fan, and you would be, I think you would be happy with the Last of Us Part 3. For me, I would have been not annoyed, but I would have been like,
I can wait as long as they want for Part 3. Like I know it's coming at some point. I don't mind when it comes. Right. And I think I had a couple of podcasts sort of say, if you'd been working on Last of Us for this long, and then you were working on the multiplayer game, what was it called again?
That never came out.
Yeah, like it's a pretty depressing world to be working on all the time. So I think that development team must feel so awesome to be working on.
Yeah, if you want to retain your talent, like you got to do some new stuff. And yeah, I think that has been my biggest problem with Naughty Dog the last decade or so. Is it's been the same 2 franchises since like 2007, right? That's when Uncharted first came out, and so I am thrilled that they're doing something new. Like this is the kind of new injection that I think they really needed. Brand new IP, super exciting. I think they can do some really cool stuff with it, and potentially, it feels like they're using a sword. It's more melee focused as opposed to like gun combat, which has been the last 2 franchises. And I don't know, maybe they're going in a different mechanical direction with it as well. Is it going to be another linear story-based game, or is it going to be slightly different? Is it going to be a little more open in its exploration? I'm just fascinated to see a new direction for a Naughty Dog game, just not on a narrative and setting level, but potentially on like an overall gameplay level as well. So that's
it's awesome
for sure.
2 more games that are both exciting. Well, one's more exciting than the other. One is Split Fiction, like Joseph Fares's Haze Light. Like their next game is just looks awesome. Like we were just saying that it's kind of taking the It Takes Two mold, and then they've got this whole idea where it's 2 writers, one writes sci-fi, one writes fantasy, and their 2 worlds collide, and it just looks like some awesome levels and co-op, and that's coming out like March 19th. I can't remember the exact date.
Yeah, as someone whose like entire favorite aesthetic is sci-fi meets fantasy, this definitely speaks to me.
Right, and I'm very excited to play that co-op with you, MVZ, and set some time aside from Baby to try and get that game played together. And yeah, it just looks incredible. I think one more announcement from me that I found exciting was Stage Fright from the developers of Overcooked. Didn't get any real gameplay. It was more just about vibes. But again, it looks very co-op-y.
I think unfortunate that got shown the same time as Split Fiction, because it feels like almost the same thing, and I think it's got undercut by Split Fiction.
Yeah, and it's like Hazelight are kind of already masters in this after It Takes Two.
Exactly, yeah.
That game's going to just by default will have a lot more to it probably than this game. But I still think this game, what's it called, Stage Fright, will hopefully be good. But
yes,
we'll see.
For sure. Yeah, I think probably Witcher 4 is the big one for me. Like, Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. It's like in my top 5 of all time. And so a continuation there, and a lot of learnings that they've had from obviously the big cyberpunk issues, but also, what they can do to expand that universe and do even more stuff. And like, I just want to know the state of the world and what's happened at that point in time. Yeah, very, very excited for that. So that was a big standout for me. And I guess, like, I'm not a Onimusha person. I didn't grow up with that franchise, but I have very much enjoyed watching people's reactions to Onimusha, because it's one that, feels like Capcom are just like in their fucking bag.
Is that a deeper cut than Okami, would you say?
I think Onimusha is probably a deeper cut than Okami.
Based on time scale.
Based on timescale, based on popularity, I think Okami was a bit more widely played by people because it was a bit more like, because it had Zelda vibes, it felt like it cut through a little bit. And it did, I guess Onimusha had multiple sequels and stuff, but it feels like, they're going back to these PS2 era games, which is really interesting, and sounds like Capcom are just poised at this point. Like, now they've done all their bangers, all their big franchises are successful, and, they don't need to worry about those. Now they're going down the rabbit hole. So a lot of people are hoping, like, they're going to bring back Beautiful Joe, they're going to bring back, are they going to do, like, a AAA Mega Man game? And for me, most importantly, where the fuck is the next Ace Attorney, guys? Come on, sort your shit out. So hopefully that happens as well. But yeah, it's good. It feels like Capcom are like at the height of their power right now, and they are using it for good, for very good, by bringing all this stuff back. And obviously, I think both those games are going to be a ways off, but yeah, being in the audience for those reactions as well was very surreal. You know what the funniest one was, actually? So there was a trailer for The Last of Us Part 2 on PC, right? And the Naughty Dog logo comes up, and the fucking intake of breath from everyone, like, you could hear the sharp intake. Everyone's like, as soon as that logo pops up, and then it's like, oh, it's the Last of Us Part 2 PC. So that was very funny as like a thing like preceding the actual Naughty Dog announcement, which I did really like in that Intergalactic trailer. They were like, from the creators of, and it goes through from Crash Bandicoot to Jak to Uncharted to Last of Us, and it's like, this is the 5th IP from Naughty Dog, which I thought was very cool. But yeah, that was definitely a moment of like, everyone was like, got super excited, and they were like, oh, it's just fucking Last of Us on PC, which was very interesting. So yeah, good stuff. But yeah, I think the best part of the game was, of course, was the orchestra playing the Balatro theme. So shout out to that, because that was fucking insane. That was absolutely insane.
Any comments on winners of awards, or do you not want to stick your foot?
No. I think honestly, I'm glad that Astrobot won a bunch of stuff. I think it deserves to, and I think it says a lot to the industry of like, hey, look, if you make a fucking great game, and Sven's speech was amazing as well. I thought that was such a good kind of message.
It was I said that to you at the time, like, Jeff's done a good job when the executives in the room just sweat that little bit more. Like, and I do think that speech combined with Jeff's point, and then the award to the guy's name I've forgotten, but
Amir,
yes. Right now. Yeah, Amir Satfat. Yeah, I think that I think Jeff stepped up really well on that front, and there was a lot of good sentiment about the industry in the room, like more so than there's been the last 10 years. Like, yes, for that sentiment to be such a strong element of the 10th edition is kind of perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know obviously we wanted Balatro to win. Me and the community were egging you on, MBZ, in Discord, but it was very nice to hear Dusette's speech talk about talk about Nintendo and as a company, and to thank them, and that's obviously something so important to us in this podcast. So like,
totally, and something that he hammers home as well is like, hey, totally, we're making a game that could be a child's first game, and like, just thinking of it in that context is like, damn, yeah, this game's real special. Like, it's going to be very important to a lot of young people right now, and it's going to influence a lot of people in the future. So yeah, I thought that was a really nice sentiment and super well delivered. And
what Sven was saying about, like, games should be fun, And the people working on those games should be having fun. And the people working on those games should be wanting to make games that they find fun. And the second that mechanism is broken because an exec says, you have to work on this game because it makes money, and you immediately are losing the point of what everyone's here for. Kind of. Exactly. And I think that sentiment was just there throughout. And yeah, it was really, really great to watch. Like, MBZ's on screen, Balatron's winning awards, our favorite games are winning, our favorite game franchises are getting new games announced. Like, it was just like ridiculously positive all around. Yeah. I actually liked the Muppets for the first time ever. They were like self-referential.
It was really good. Yeah, the kind of just like jabs at the Game Awards and Jeff from the Muppets was really good. Yeah, I think it was by far the best show there's ever been. And obviously I'm biased because I'm in the audience and winning awards and stuff like that. But just from a pure production level and from a pacing standpoint, I thought it was really, really good. So
Snoop Dogg was there.
Oh my God, Snoop Dogg. Johnny V was dancing in the audience. You could see he's like the one guy they cut to. Yeah.
There's always that period before the final announcement and the orchestra and the Game of the Year. That's always a bit more dead. And I think that was still the case. And that's kind of when
it was still the case.
It was still the case. I think that's unavoidable, but the first third and that final ending and the middle, to be fair, like, was fire. Like, there were huge announcements constantly.
Yes. We haven't even talked about there's an Elden Ring online co-op battle royale roguelike coming out next year. Like, what the fuck?
And there was space for the speeches, which was great. And yes, there was still a bunch of awards, including Balatro winning Best Indie, which wasn't, didn't have a speech behind it, which sucks. But the speeches that were there didn't feel rushed. There were translators on stages not being rushed, which was nice. Like, there was just a lot more goodwill, a lot more good vibes in the room than it felt like been in previous years. And I think that the show is still incredibly long. There's still issues with the show, but I feel like there are so few things I'm moaning about this year compared to other years. I think Jeff genuinely has been listening, and the show is never going to be perfect. It's coming. It's the best of the bunch by a long way. And
for sure.
Jeff's done another great job.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's I do. Yeah, I get like why they have to do so many awards off screen, but I don't know, it is a little weird when we're sitting there and it's like they did indie and mobile back to back, so we just, for one of our awards we went up on stage, it's like that's one award, and then we just win 2 awards immediately back to back, and it's like, oh, that's great, but also like, it would have been nice, but
and we'd be pissed if they did do speeches for every award, and then all of a sudden we're listening to long speeches from esports players and things.
Right, exactly.
We'd be a bit disconnected from that, and that's understandable. But yeah, so you're never going to please everyone.
No, definitely. And I think the way that he generally tends to balance the on stage awards is to rotate it between different winners so that different people get to speak,
Yes.
And that generally was the case here, because there was an award that Helldivers went up to talk. There's an award that Metaphor went up to talk.
Yes.
There was, I think, Final Fantasy as well. Like, so I think they rotated it well enough. Wukong got the action game. So yeah, I think pretty much most of the big games got their chance to go up and talk and say something, basically. So it was well done in that way. But anyway, that was the Game Awards. But Bally, there are more important awards to be talking about, of course. That is our awards for this year for Game of the Year.
So normally we would have done Goatee T Dakoti before.
Exactly.
And this would normally be part 2, and this is our only part for this year.
Yes.
But we will be doing Go TT Dakoti in January once I am back at work. Once I'm back podcasting full time again, and we will get there, so do not worry. And that is the same for our non-Tendo Game of the Year. We'll be doing that in January.
Yeah, so everything will be like slightly delayed. Our predictions will still happen, but they'll be slightly delayed, basically.
Exactly. But this crucial pillar of Game of the Year, we're keeping in place.
Yeah, my only thing is fingers crossed that Nintendo doesn't announce the Switch 2 before we do our predictions for next year. That's the only like time bomb that's ticking, potentially.
If it does, it does. But the predictions will respond to the news, so
exactly.
we'll get there. Because our prediction episode will probably end up being second half of January.
I imagine so.
Our non-Tender predictions probably in February, but everything will will fall into place.
Exactly. So yeah, that's the plan going forward. And if you want to hear a little bit of preview of GoTT to Coty, there was a Patreon episode that we did that I also dropped into the main feed. So go listen to that. It's like 3.5 hours of myself, Matt Lorigan, and Devon chatting through various top 10 lists of some kind.
Shout outs to Matt and Devon for joining you. That was great.
Yeah, it was a really fun show to do. And yeah, lots of different games chatted about on there. So go check that out. But here we are for our Nintendo Game of the Year for 2024. An interesting year for Nintendo. I think in a lot of ways we were like excited for some stuff, and there was some good things coming out. But then there's also like, we're in the dying embers here. Switch is been around for a while, and looking at my kind of like hour count for stuff this year, as you always do, you get the kind of end of year wrap up from every platform. Switch was definitely still my highest played console, but not by much. I think PlayStation and Switch were about neck and neck at about 100 hours each. Xbox I don't own, but I have Game Pass PC that I use, which was like 60-ish hours, and then my Steam was like 500 hours. So Steam and PC definitely was winning with Steam Deck this year for me. I think this was the year where Steam Deck really overtook Switch in terms of my playtime and in terms of my attention.
Only by a margin of about 300 hours.
Oh yeah, but I do feel like we're poised for a big comeback next year when Switch 2 comes out, and when all those games that we want to play are going to come, because Nintendo are going to obviously put a lot of work and effort into their first year of a brand new system and making sure that every month has something big to play. So I'm sure that next year our Switch 2 hours are going to be off the charts. But how was your Switch year, do you think, Bally?
Yeah, I mean, I was 93 hours on Switch this year, and I played 403 hours total. There's
about a quarter.
Yeah, there's a bunch of games on here that I did not play on Switch, but are on Switch that we're going to talk about. So it's not completely 1-to-1, but yeah, it's the end of the console life cycle. There's definitely there's very few Nintendo first-party games on this list, and those that are there are not as high profile perhaps as they have been in recent years. And that's totally understandable, because I think we're going to get a bunch of them next year. And likewise, I feel that the grip on indies in these final 2 years of the Switch has slightly loosened in favor of potentially more powerful hardware. I don't know if I'm not sure that's strictly the case, but I feel like there's normally more good to great indies on this list that isn't there this year. I don't know, because this list is 14 games, so normally it would be a few more games, and I think that's just to do with the nature of Switch life cycle coming to an end.
Yeah, for sure. So Bally, do you want to run us through the way this is all going to work?
Yeah, so this is in alphabetical order. And to be clear, for those who don't know, these are all games that we played this year that came out on Nintendo systems. There is one exception to that rule in, where is it? Pokemon TCG Pocket. But
yes.
We'll get there, but yeah. So Animal Well, Eastward, Octopia, DLC, Emio the Smiling Man, Little Kitty, Big City, Neva, Pepper Grinder, Pokemon TCG Pocket, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, Princess Peach Showtime, SteamWorld Heist 2, Super Monkey Ball, Banana Rumble, Thank Goodness You're Here, The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom, and The Plucky Squire.
Yes, so the idea is to do a top 10. I was going to argue that we do a top 5 this year instead, but I kept finding games behind a sofa and being like, oh, actually, we do have a few more. Because I think the original list was 11. I was like, oh, we can't do a top 10 if we only got 11 games. But we got 14, so we can slice some. And I think really, like, the bottom half of this list is not going to be as important as the top half. No. So we can work our way through it. But I think it would be good to just chat through each of these games as well. Definitely. And give them their flowers and talk about what we liked about them, even if we didn't like them that much. So how do you want to start this, Bally? Do we want to do cuts or keeps, or where do you want to go?
I think we normally do random games that we push up, and I think we should maybe go alphabetical, and it makes it more random for later, if that makes sense, in some weird way. So I'd say we go through alphabetically, and we say, does this have the potential to make top 10, or is it being cut now?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay, so we've got Animal Well at the top.
Animal Well. I think we like Animal Well. I definitely respect Animal Well much more than I personally loved playing it. I think it has incredible art direction and just like sound design, atmosphere. I think that stuff is exceptionally well done. I think it was the game that made me realize that for me, Metroidvanias are as much about the running around and shooting guys and getting lost as it is about the kind of like puzzle solving aspect, navigational aspect of it. Like having that kind of like feeling of movement, right, which I always talk about, is actually quite fundamental to my joy of Metroidvanias. And so I think that kind of put that into stark relief for me, and also made me realize that this type of game, the kind of Metroidvania style game, I prefer it in a format where it fits it a little bit better, and I think that Tunic, we've talked about a lot, fits it a lot better. I even think a game like Fez potentially fits it a lot better than Animal Well does. But I do respect it greatly, and I can see it making this top 10. Honestly, I do think that it could.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I would say it should be in the top 10. I think that I don't know what my favorite type of Metroidvania is, and I agree with you that there's some awkward platforming in this game that is kind of important at points, that the game does demand you to do some quite high level stuff at points, which doesn't always feel the most welcome in this kind of game, because it's quite a ploddingly slow game in comparison to, I don't know, like a Metroid Dread or something. Like it's very methodical, and I do love the sound design. I love the like, oh, here's a new animal. Is it a friend or a foe? I'll find out. And I love that like kind of mystery and the color
also scheme. Like what the items even do as well. Like none of it's explained, and it's like, I've got a slinky. What the fuck does that do? You know?
Yeah, and then we got all the items in different orders, and we're WhatsApping each other, and it was that experience. And like, it's a fun game to play. Asynchronous. I don't know. What the right word
like
is.
Playing it together separately. Essentially,
yeah, exactly. You know? And so
it's a conversation game.
Yeah, and I think it got a huge review spike, and we were like, right, we have to play it. And yeah, I agree, it didn't quite live up to that level of hype, but I still really enjoy this game, and I think it should be top 10.
Yeah, I'd recommend people go and watch videos on Animal Well about the depth of its puzzles, because it gets frankly just ridiculous. And yeah, there's some stuff in there that is like so crazy, and I think that, you know, the time and effort put into it is very good. So
the most ridiculous stuff in this game compared to say Tunic is like 100 times.
Oh yeah, it's much more complicated, mad. For sure. But yeah, let's put it in there for now.
Okay.
The Eastwood Octopia DLC. So this was a last minute addition because I actually didn't have it on my list because it's been in my backloggery. I'm currently playing it for like the whole year. I have issues with Octopia fundamentally from a design standpoint. It feels like a farming game that doesn't understand what it means to be a farming game, unfortunately. And despite the tremendous art style and like the music and all the Eastwood stuff about it, I think is very good. But I think they didn't quite get like why farming is fun, or what like having the loop locked down. And there's definitely nice things about it, but the fact that I haven't finished it still, and the fact that me thinking about finishing it makes me want to not finish it, is probably says all you need to know about it. I know you didn't play it either, Balin. It's just me who's played it, so yeah. I think it's probably an easy cut. And it's a shame because we love Eastwood. Eastwood is like, it was our game of the year for 2021, 2022. Can't remember what year, but it was our game of the year. Yeah, I was very excited to have like a farming themed DLC, and it just misunderstands or just doesn't quite know what a player wants from that type of experience, unfortunately. And so, yeah, I did enjoy what I played of it, and mainly was playing it on a plane. So most of my hours are not logged on it. So I've actually got quite a lot of hours in it. But yeah, I maybe I'll finish it one day. But it's not calling to me to go back to it. So
I think what you're saying about it makes me a little less keen to go back to it, and there's quite a lot of games from this year that I didn't get to that I do want to go back to at some point in the coming years. So
for sure, and potentially a Nintendo game for next year is Fields of Mysteria when that releases out of early access, and that feels like that's the one that you should be checking out instead.
That'll be like, I've got my Switch 2, I can play a game on my Switch 2. This will be great. Yeah, let's do that.
100%. Okay. Next up is Emio the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club 3. A game that I the more I think about it, the more I like it, I think, which is interesting, because in the moment I felt like I had a lot of complaints of like, why is it still this structure? Why is it still making me do things like, specifically choosing the look option or like the search option, and like having these specific options felt like very old school in its design. But at the end of the day, I never had to look up a guide for it, and I remember the first two Famicom Detective Club games constantly having to go to a guide to be like, what am I supposed to click on here? Where am I supposed to go? It's less open-ended, so it's more linear. It puts you down more of a path, more of a funnel, but I think that is to its benefit because it means you never get fully stuck. And I think it's the strongest narrative of the 3 games so far. Ending is fucking wild, and I think that it can make this list. I definitely think there's a spot for it here. So I would move to keep Emio the Smiling Man personally.
Sure, let's stick it up there.
This list. Next up is A Little Kitty, A Big City, a game that sold tremendously well on Switch. It's the best-selling indie of the year on Switch, and is constantly in the top 10, and a lot of people love it. I think it's okay. I feel like I don't vibe with these games necessarily, the games that are like, you're an animal going around and you're causing some chaos, which, I have started, I've started Untitled Goose Game, and I'll get there. I will finish it because I'm obligated to, but I think something about it doesn't speak to me on a gameplay level. There is a cuteness to it, there is a fun to it, but I also feel like it just doesn't resonate with me very strongly. Like mechanically it's quite light, and a lot of it is run around, do these little quests, like find this thing here. It's more exploration focused, and the animation's tremendous. I do think the animation is really, really good, but yeah, I think it's a similar problem to Stray, where like I think a lot of the appeal for people with these games is, oh my god, this cat is so cute and well animated and like all that sort of stuff, and that unfortunately for me is not enough to get me to like a video game. I need a bit more depth than that, and Look at Big City is a nice little dalliance, but it never hits the high notes. You might like this, Bally. I don't know. You definitely enjoyed Goose Game quite a bit, and potentially could.
Is it kind of like mini open world-ish kind of?
Yes, pretty much. It's mini open world. It's like little kind of Japanese inspired streets, which is nice actually. And you're trying to like the end goal is to like get up to the top of an apartment building basically. You do a bunch of little quests in order to do that, and then you can actually finish it very quickly. I think I did it in under 2 hours actually. So yeah.
It's on my list. Yeah, I've got like a big subs list for this year where I can explain my whole process another time, but yeah, it's on my subs list for this year.
All right. Well, I think it gets
relegating it for now.
Yeah, let's cut it.
One of these relegations might get back in.
Maybe, yes.
It's that kind of year. Where
it is, yeah.
I don't think that makes it, and one of them might get.
That's why I was advocating for a top 5, but we'll see.
Well, we'll see. I never said the bottom of the list was going to be strong, but here's a strong game. Naver.
Should we just put it in there and talk about it later?
We'll put it in there. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah. Naver is absolutely on this top 10.
Here's a game I forgot about.
Oh, wait, really? I didn't think this was on Switch. Are you sure this is on Switch?
I've just looked it up. It says it is on Switch.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm on Wikipedia, and it says Nintendo Switch.
And it says it's already released on Switch? It's not, like, announced for Switch?
It says
when did it come out on
Switch? In open rows, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. I guess it is then. Is it going to make the list, though, is the question.
Well, I mean, Open Roads is like a mother-daughter short narrative game. It's got quite high profile voice actors. So it's got Kerry Russell, who I'm a big fan of. She's in stuff like The Americans and other things.
This is as far as Bally's actor knowledge goes.
She's in Star Wars as well. And then Caitlin Dever, who's actually going to be playing Abby in season 2 of The Last of Us, which is awesome. So I really did enjoy this game. It's got all the vibes I like. It does have an interesting story that goes in places that's like, oh wow, wasn't expecting that, and that's about it. There's nothing overly dramatic or murderous or anything like that goes on, but it's a lot of first person walking around, just kind of exploring small areas, and then you're driving on in the car to the next area and finding out. It's kind of like pseudo detective-y but very light.
Right.
I had a good time. This is the kind of thing that might slide in at number 10, but I don't want to push that hard because I think it can go there for now. But
we'll see where things land, because there might be space for it.
Yeah, it's fun. Like it's nothing special, but it's a real good time. And if you want like autumnal vibes, which I am a huge fan of, like I think of games like Lake, that was incredibly autumnal vibes. This has vibes like that game, but more mystery and less just like postal delivery service kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Pepper Grinder.
Pepper Grinder, yeah.
I really like Pepper Grinder.
So did I, yeah. I think Pepper Grinder, it's a game that has a lot of flaws, personally. I think there's elements of the platforming that can be frustrating, especially some of those bosses where you're just like, you're floating in air and like you fall through and you're just dead immediately, and that stuff can be...
The final boss was tough.
Yeah, very, very challenging final boss with some frustrating elements that also, like, I think glitched for both of us in weird ways. And yeah, there's definitely like issues with it. And the level design, I think sometimes the checkpoints are just too far away from each other. Like there's definitely sequences you do and it's like, oh man, I was like right there. Now I have to do a bunch of stuff to get all the way back. And I think it does the thing as well where it doesn't retain the things you've collected item wise. So you have to go and collect them again, even if you die, which adds frustration, and it also means that you're less likely to go and pick them up again on subsequent runs because you're just like, I want to quickly get through this now. But I think it feels really good to play. The drill is just a really cool mechanic, and I think they go good places with it. There's a couple of fun gimmicks they do as well, like you're not just drilling, you're controlling a big robot. Like there's a sequence where you're on like a sled and controlling it with that. So there's some fun mechanical sections that are kind of shaking the formula up and doing things a bit different. There's some underwater stuff as well. And so yeah, I think looks spectacular, really beautiful pixel art. I think it's just got a great vibe and look to it. And yeah, I can see it making it in to the bottom of the top 10 for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And it's really nice and short as well. It's not like 6, 7, 8 hours. It's 3, 4, 5 hours, which I think works much better for this kind of game, I think.
Yeah.
Let's stick it in there.
Let's put it in there. I think it can definitely make it.
Here's an interesting one.
Yeah. Pokemon TCG Pocket. Now, Bally, you've not talked about this video game at all. I did a whole segment on Patreon about it. But yeah, you're not a mobile boy at all.
I've played a lot of this game. I think that we grew up with the trading card game and we loved trading cards. We did not do a ton of battling, but I did actually do a lot of battling once I was at university. Like we got back into Pokemon cards. We'd buy decks online. We'd deck build in an evening. We'd do like, not sweepstakes. We do like snake,
like a draft?
Snake draft, sorry. We draft the cards so it's like even. And we had a really good time. I also was very into the Pokemon trading card game, Game Boy Color game, which I played to death, and I love deck building. I really like Pokemon. Like it simplifies deck building in a really nice way where you get down to these 30 card decks with no energy cards in them. And you can adjust them with trainers and everything you need. And like the deck building is very easy and fun. And I think the cadence at which I've not paid a penny and I'm still getting so many cards, I think they might have actually gone too far for the freebie lovers, to be honest.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, they've already made like millions and millions of dollars, so I think they're doing.
So they're not going to change the format, which works for me because I'm getting loads of cards.
No, I think they're doing just fine. Yeah, and they are. I think from a free to play standpoint, I think it's one of the most generous free to play games that I've seen. So,
I'm still playing it multiple times every day. It's like in my phone habit, and I can't say I've ever had that with any phone game ever. I've not tried many, if any, to be honest. I'm not a mobile phone gamer in the slightest. And
the fact that you say mobile phone gamer says enough, you know.
I am old. Yeah, I don't game on my mobile phone, but this game has made me game on my mobile phone. So I think it deserves a hell of a lot of credit for that. I pursued the first like badge where you have to beat like 45 people. Like I went and got that badge. I'm now tempted to go and get the next one. I'm like wanting to deck build to try and counter Mewtwo X, and there's a bunch of new cards which I think will really suit him.
You got to build the Melmetal deck. I fucking love that thing.
That card looks cool. There's just not enough steel Pokemon to make.
No, there's not. There's not enough. So. Bishop's very good. I like using him as well. But
have you tried many dual type energy decks?
It was the first deck I ever made, was a dual type one, which was electric and steel, and the problem is the energy situation, where it's random, and it's really bad. It doesn't encourage you to do split decks.
It needs, in my opinion, they need to change it so that it alternates. If it just alternated, it's like, because I love Dragonite, love Dragonair, and all that lot. They're dragon type, but there are no dragon energies. They use electric and water energies.
Right.
So I've been making an electric water deck, and there are times where I am missing key turns to absolutely destroy using Dragonite's Draco Meteor because I cannot get the electric.
Because there's no consistent energy draw.
And he only needs one of each. Like, it's not like he needs much, but occasionally you just get 4 in a row of electric, and it really screws it all up, which is annoying. But my point is, I think this game is fantastic. I think the balancing overall is really good. I look forward to getting more decks, and this game should be in the top 10. I think
it's kind of crazy, isn't it? But
it's really good.
I do. I've battled less in recent times. I've mainly been opening packs every day. But the nice thing about that is, like, when I want to go and build decks, I now have a ton more cards to like pull from and try and make stuff out of. I now have 2 Mew EXs, so I can build a Mew EX deck if I want to now, which is fun. So I'm gonna keep playing it, I think. And like, it's just the nice habit of, like, basically every day in the morning, as you know, my ritual on the toilet is it was always set in stone. And now part of my ritual is, like, open that pack in the morning. So it's consistent. It's good.
The artwork is stunning.
Some really nice art.
So nice to just look at. I there was like a Venusaur event, and I wanted that Venusaur card so bad. And the same way it took you like 11 goes to get that Lapras X.
Right, yeah.
It took me like 15 goes or something stupid to get this Venusaur. And I finally did get it, but its artwork is just beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. I'm very impressed.
I also imagine, like, you know, this timing of Pokemon TCG Pocket coming out when you have like little time to play games, and it's easy to like pop out and
and it's a one-handed game. There's been like times where I'm holding Baby Bally in my right arm, and I've just got my left arm ready to check podcasts and do whatever, and I can listen to podcasts while playing this game. Is another thing, all through the same device, which is cool. It's very good. It's very good. It did come out at the perfect time for me.
It really did. Okay, great. Next up, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I think this might be another Neva situation where we just put it up and we can talk about it later.
Game.
Yeah, for sure. I just played the DLC for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Oh, nice.
And we can talk about that as well when we get to it. Okay, Princess Peach Showtime. This game's pretty cool. I played this when I was in Japan. It was my travel game, and like, as a light little platformy fun experience, I had a good time with it. I don't think it's a world breaker. I don't think it, you know, is necessarily incredible or anything, but I enjoyed it a good amount, and, you know, I could see it being like a number 10 on the list potentially, but I don't know that it knocks anything out. I might prefer it to like Pepper Grinder personally.
Oh wow!
Just on a consistency level. But I think it might just be a little too basic overall. There's definitely levels in there, like the detective stuff and the bakery stuff.
How long is it?
I want to say like 6 to 7 hours. Like, it's not long at all.
Could you have done with it like an hour or two shorter, or?
No, I think it doesn't overstay its welcome, because it's basically, you essentially get 2 levels per outfit, and then there's a additional like harder level for every single outfit as well. So you basically do 3 different levels per outfit. And some of those bosses at the end game are actually quite challenging in a way that I'm like, oh, if kids play this, they might actually have a rough time, because like, it feels very much built for kids. It feels like a kid game in that way, but, you know, I think that if those kids were getting to the late game, they might actually struggle to get through it and finish it of their own accord. So a little bit weird in that sense, but yeah, I do like it. I mean, I don't know.
It's getting in. I think it's
a bubbler. I think it's a bubbler. It's like I feel like we're gonna get here and we're gonna have 12 games and we're gonna have to cut 2, and it might be the one that gets cut. So
that's all right.
We'll do that. Okay, SteamWorld Heist 2, a game you played a lot, but I noticed you played 30 hours of this in your Steam wrap up or your Switch wrap up.
Yeah, it's a long game. By the end, I would say it is a few hours too long. I was liking the pacing a lot, and right up until like the final fifth, and then it was like, oh wow, I've got this other whole thing to do. It's a real difficulty spike near the end. I've not really talked about this game like since I started it, but and I'm sure I'll talk about it more when we do talk about the games we've been playing. But I think that there's like this type of enemy at the end where they can shoot you with a thing, and then it will do damage to you until you kill an enemy. So like it's almost like this poison effect. I don't know. It's like an acid armor or something it's called.
Right.
And it just did drive me slightly mad at the end of the game. So I did turn the difficulty down. Final 2 or 3 levels, I think, or something. And I was just like, all right, good, great, I'm done. Okay, the story's cool and right, but yeah, that was frustrating. But the whole pacing otherwise, and like the building up your submarine and the submarine combat and all the islands, and it's a really, really good game. I think it's a very, very good strategy, 2D strategy game, and I really enjoyed like experimenting with the classes. And maybe it didn't need the whole like you can switch classes, and maybe that overcomplicates things, I don't know, but it certainly, they felt like they had to put more mechanics on the first game, because I played the first game earlier this year as well, which I really enjoyed. I much prefer the whole on the water island theme than just space. I think that was all done incredibly well. Yeah, I think it's a really great game from Thunderful now, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite games of the year, undeniably. I would like it in this top 10.
Yeah, let's put it on the list. I really want to get to it. It's actually going down in price quite quickly. It's like 45% off on the Steam sale right now. So I was definitely eyeing it for potentially playing that over the holiday. But I've got a lot of things to play, so I'll eventually get to it. But yeah, it sounds great, honestly. So happy to have it on there. Next up, we got Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. It's solid. It's a really good Monkey Ball game. I think I haven't thought about it much since I played it, but I think it's definitely, I would have it on here above stuff like Pepper Grinder and Princess Peach, just from a pure, it's good Monkey Ball. It's still good. I still enjoy it. And I don't remember a lot of it level-wise. Definitely got better in the back half when it was like the harder levels. And honestly, it does feel like a real successor to the originals. You know, there's definitely Monkey Ball games over the years, like the GBA one, the DS one, the Wii one, that have felt like slightly off in terms of their level design and what they are drawing from compared to the original games. Like, there's a bit of a chaos to the level design of Monkey Ball 1 and 2, where it's like there's almost, it feels random, but also like everything is so clearly built for a specific purpose, and Banana Rumble has that vibe to it. It feels very specifically designed, but also chaotic, and like has these levels where you look at them and you're like, how the fuck am I going to get through this? And then you kind of like bash your head against it for a bit and you're like, oh, okay, I managed to do it. Really challenging, really good. I think I'm up to like level 6 or 7, or world 6 or 7 for the X levels, which are like the harder ones. And it's one that, you know, I do like picking up every now and again and being like, yeah, let's just roll some more Monkey Ball. So as far as like modern day Monkey Ball goes, it's kind of all you can ask for. So I'm pretty happy with it, and I can see it
Let's
being
get it up there.
So yeah.
Should I get to it at some point?
You know, I would say probably play the remake of 1 and 2
Okay.
if you want to get some real Monkey Ball, because I know you didn't own either of those games back in the day.
No.
So yeah, I would go to those first. But
Did those remakes come out last year?
I think it was 2 years ago on Switch, I want to say.
Okay.
But yeah, those are solid and definitely worth playing, I say. So
Thank goodness you're here.
Thank goodness you're here. Oh, thank goodness you're here, Colin. No. I do love the voices. They are funny. They are very funny. Yeah, I like this game. I'm not a huge fan of it personally. Like, I think it's cool and it's interesting, and I don't know, the comedy just didn't work for me. It didn't really resonate. I laughed a little bit. I smiled a good amount, but I was not losing my mind over it like I think a lot of people were. And that's just going to come down to personal taste, I think. I think a lot of this game is impressive. The way it is, like, the way it looks is tremendous. Like, it is so pretty, has incredible art direction and such a distinct style for character design. There's a real Beano energy to this. Like,
yeah,
you look
that's
at
a
it,
great shout.
and it's like, this looks like a fucking Beano cartoon.
Yeah.
And I have a soft spot in my heart for that stuff, for sure. Voice acting is excellent across the board. But yeah, I think it's similar. Honestly, like, this has Untitled Goose Game and Little Kitty Big City vibes. I think I just don't vibe with games like this. Games where you just kind of run around a space and
played
don't
Untitled Goose Game, yeah.
No, I am, but I've started it, yes.
Oh, you've started it?
Yeah, I have. Kind of games where you run around space, do like little kind of puzzles and slap things, you know, like just interact with things. It's just, I think it's just a bit too light on the interactivity, and there's not enough narrative to carry me, and so I think that's where I kind of phase out. Like, if there's not enough narrative and then it's also light mechanically, that's where I kind of drop off on things. And I think Thank Goodness You're Here is another example of that, alongside Little Kitty Big City from this year. So
yeah,
I don't mind it being in there, but I also am not going to fight for it to be in there.
Yeah, I
so.
don't feel strongly. I had a good time with this game, but nowhere near as good as like most of the games on the top half of this, or what's already been promoted.
Would you take Open Roads over Thank Goodness You're Here on this list?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool.
Like it's fun. It's like it's quirky Britishness. Fun. Yes. Thumbs up. Hilarious. But I don't know. It just. I probably laughed louder than you at some of the jokes.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of like slapstick stuff that Bally's always a sucker for.
Yeah, and I do like that kind of humor a lot of the time. But even as someone who likes that kind of humor, I'm not like, this has to be on the list kind of thing. Like it's fine, and maybe I agree. Like maybe it could have done with more narrative. I think the most impressive thing like is the art style, and we've seen it with games like Cuphead where you can just do an entire animated art style in a game now, and that's something you couldn't really do 15 years ago as easily, and it's very cool that you can do that, and I'd like to see more games like that, and this is a good one. I don't think it's like a special one, and yeah, I don't know, it's not fair. Like, I wish this game was a thing. It's not. It isn't really. I don't think that's ever a really fair critique,
definitely.
But I think that this game isn't doing enough that's in my wheelhouse of things I like. But it was fun to play. For like, I don't know, it was like 3 hours long, not that long, and it's fun, but it's just not. Yeah, there wasn't. If you're not, like you said, if you're not gonna do like, wow, this is mechanically a really great feeling game, then it either has to be properly hilarious or have a strong narrative, and it's none of those three things, right?
And I think for a lot of people it was properly hilarious, right? Like, all the people we listened to on podcasts were like, oh my god, this is the funniest game I've ever played. And I think
and then I just like think what I like the American perceptions of the UK, and why is that funny? And I just don't. I think reflecting on it, maybe that's why this game did quite well critically, is because Americans find it funny, but at the same time there's lots of Brits I know.
There's loads of Brits who love it.
So I don't know where I'm missing out here, but it just didn't quite stick the landing, and it needed something else. But I can't name what that.
It has a lot of charm, and I think that's great. But yeah, it just didn't resonate, and that's fine. I think that's going to happen sometimes with popular games. So.
Can you believe a Zelda game came out this year?
It did, yeah, it did. I had a great time with it. I really like Echoes of Wisdom. Definitely should be on the top 10.
Me too. Loved it.
And we can maybe talk a little bit more about it when we get to it. Final game, The Plucky Squire, Bally.
This game has a lot of charm. It's a very well put together thing, but the pacing has never killed like a game more for me than this game. Like, and I know they've got this update. I've not played it since the update that's presumably streamlines things a little bit. I think even if you streamlined it a bit, there's some parts of this that are so plodding. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a tutorial, but once a tutorial is over, I like to get a move on, and like I do need the pace to increase a bit. And there is so much talking text and cutscenes and stop and look at this, stop it, and some of the areas that you think are going to be like really big and you explore them are actually a lot more on rails than you realize initially. And I don't know, this game just the pacing really killed it altogether, genuinely, and it's a shame because there's a lot of nice feeling stuff in there. It just the sword swinging does not feel good. I'll give it that. It's very plodding in that sense. So, and ultimately, I think I just found this game very disappointing because it was a game I was very hyped about, and it is a good game, but that level of disappointment I had because I wanted it to be such a great game, and it was nowhere near great. And yeah, I enjoyed this game on Steam Deck, but I don't really want to fight for it in this list. I don't think it deserves it.
Yeah, it's a real shit because I feel like, I don't know, probably Plucky Squire is on par with Princess Peach Showtime, maybe better than it, but I think context matters with how you come to a game.
Expectation. Yeah.
And expectation matters, and like I had no expectation for Princess Peach Showtime, and like, is it better than Plucky Squire? Probably not, but like Plucky Squire feels like it had such high expectations and fell so far below that, you know, even though maybe on a quality level it could deserve to be in there, it's just like it's a time and place thing sometimes, right, when it comes to that stuff. So a lot of our games of the year, I'd argue, were games that had incredibly high expectations and then surpassed them. And Metal surpassed, yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we've cut 4 things, so we technically do have 10 games.
I think we got 11 because I added Open Roads.
Oh, you did add Open Roads, right? Yes,
I could cut Open Roads again if that makes sense.
You could, yeah. I mean, I don't mind.
What's the lowest hanging fruit here?
For me, the lowest hanging fruit is probably Princess Peach, Open Roads, and Pepper Grinder, maybe.
I like Pepper Grinder.
Okay, I think Pepper Grinder can stay, definitely. So between Open Roads and Princess Peach Showtime,
I think we should give it to Princess Peach Showtime because she's been crying out for her own game for a long time. That's not on that awful one on the DS, and there's a million Open Roads. That sounds really harsh. There's a lot of games like Open Roads.
There's lots of like sad crying narrative games,
yeah, and it was a very good one with very good vibes. It wasn't great, but I could see it be our number 11, and we stick Princess Peach probably at number 10.
That makes sense to me. I think I'm happy to do that. So let's cut Open Roads. Okay, cool. So we have a list of 10 games. Do you want to read through the 10 games we have, Bally, and then we can start ordering them?
So our 10 games in no particular order are Animal Well, Emio the Smiling Man, Neva, Pepper Grinder, Pokemon TCG Pocket, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, Princess Peach Showtime, SteamWorld Heist 2, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom.
Yes, and you said no particular order, but they are in fact
alphabetical.
I think they are, right? Neva N becomes 4P. Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah, there's a lot of P's. There's 4 games that start with P on this list. Jesus, it's a P year, I guess. So, okay, cool.
Should we push some stuff up to top 5?
Yeah, I mean, we know that Princess Peach Showtime's number 10, so we can move that to
let's do
10.
That first. Sure,
yes.
Let's do that.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, like I said, I enjoyed this game a good amount. It's a very easy to play game, and I think there's really fun, like, I would take a whole game playing as Ninja Peach. Like, I think that section was really fun, and like hiding from enemies, and like using the ninja stars, and I think the animation quality in this game is actually really, really good. Like, when she goes under the water and she has like this little stick that she's breathing through, and like the bubbles that come out. Like, there's some exceptional, like the ice skating stuff is really good. Like, she does the backwards, you know when skaters do that backwards skate thing? Like, the way you move with her in the ice skating, and the momentum that she has, and the times that she will backwards skate and she won't, and the way she turns on a dime. Like, I think they put a lot of work into the animation of this game, and I think it really shows.
Good feel.
Yeah, it's good feel. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So they did a really good job of making that character come to life, which I thought was excellent. And you know, it's nothing to shout home about, but it's a good time, good fun time. So I think it works number 10. Okay, so yeah, should we do some top ones then? We want to push up. Yeah. So I think definitely in the top for me is Prince of Persia, Neva, and maybe Zelda as well. TCG Pocket, I could see. Those are the ones that are streaming.
TCG Pocket that high?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm looking at these other games, and I don't know. There's definitely some. I know you like SteamWorld Heist 2 a lot, so that potentially can get up there as also.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the ones that are kind of shouting out to me. I think definitely.
Let's do that big 3 for now. I think I agree. Prince of Persia, Zelda, and Neva.
Yeah, I think those 3 will be somewhere in the top 5 for sure. I think for the more bottom half of it, I would say that, like, probably because Monkey Ball is like, oh, it's a Monkey Ball, I could see it going at number 9 personally. You know, it's solid, it's good, it's more Monkey Ball, it's not reinventing the formula drastically, but it's a strong formula that I still enjoy greatly, and I'm glad they made another one. Like, I honestly, Monkey Ball is the kind of series where I will just buy the new one every time, just because I like those levels, I like playing those levels, and it's a good, consistent, fun thing, and I like that the series is back, and they are putting some nice effort into making it good again. So yeah, I can see that at 9.
I think that's fair. We're gonna go with that number 9.
Cool.
So we've got this middle pack with Animal Well, Emio the Smiling Man, Pepper Grinder, Pokemon TCG Pocket, and SteamWorld Heist 2.
Yes. I think Emio the Smiling Man is actually making my own personal top 10, so I'd keep it a little bit higher.
Okay.
I would maybe put either Animal Well or Pepper Grinder next as number 8.
Yeah, I mean, my top 10 isn't finalized, but I don't think Pokemon TCG Pocket's getting in.
Oh, wait, really?
Well, I
feel like I don't know. It feels like we played a lot of it.
I think it's my mobile game bias. Like, I'm just like, but it's just like, it's not even, it almost doesn't feel like a game. It just feels like...
Yeah. It is, though.
I'm being very unfair. I'm not trying to say this is a fair description. It just doesn't feel... I'm doing game things in it. There is strategy.
You are playing a game. It's the Pokemon trading card game, you know?
Yeah. But I'm only doing that a very small amount of time. Most of the time, I'm just logging in, getting my
getting your packs,
pack,
yeah,
and
looking out.
Should we really be putting cocaine on these lists?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I get it. I have had more fun playing that than like Animal Well, weirdly, you know? Like, I think Animal Well I respect a lot, but I've enjoyed the strategy of battles and like building a deck, and I have legitimately enjoyed that more than Pepper Grinder and Animal Well.
Yeah.
So I think just on a pure gameplay level.
When you told me that Pokemon, I've forgotten their name, who boosts your grass energy.
Oh yeah.
And then I've seen, what's that? Is it Superior? No, not Superior. It's like the grass starter final evolution from a generation beyond when I was into Pokemon.
Yes, yeah.
But they have like a move. They have a Pokemon ability, which is like all your grass Pokemon can use like half the amount of grass energy to use their move.
Oh my god.
So I'm like, right, if I can combine that with my Venusaur X.
Oh my god.
Then he can use his Giga thing after 2 grass energies, not 4.
And if you have a Lilligant as well, then you automatically get additional. So, man, that's fucked.
So, yeah. But I mean, that's a lot of Pokemon to get to that strategy. But the point we're talking about the strategy, maybe it should be higher.
I think it is.
I need to adjust my list. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I do. I legit think that this game is worth being on this list. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's deserving. And I think there is a derogatory way in which we view a game like this because it's a mobile game and you've got fucking microtransactions in it, and like that stuff is bad. But as we've said, we've not spent any money. I feel zero desire to spend any money because the game is so generous with everything.
Yeah.
Like at the moment, they're giving us like 12 hourglasses every day, and I'm like, okay, sure, I'll take those. You know, like I don't think it's predatory, which I think is
12?
important.
I get like 4.
Oh no, they're giving you daily gifts right now on your if you claim your gifts right now, they're giving you free 12 for some event or for some reason, which always happens with gacha games. It's like, here's an event.
Here's the thing.
We sneezed yesterday. Here's some currency. Like that's kind of what they do. So
okay, you can go higher for now.
Okay, so then I think for me it's between Pepper Grinder, Animal Well. Yeah, between those two for number 8, personally. Because I feel like Emio and SteamWorld Heist are kind of more personal picks for me and you.
I think I like Pepper Grinder more than Animal Well.
I think I do as well.
Weirdly, it's got that
energy.
It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's snappy. The platforming feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Animal Well does have moments that are frustrating, and so does Pepper Grinder. But
yeah, I can see either way. Personally, I'm not too fussed of the order here. But
it's Emio higher than all these.
I personally liked Emio more than Animal Well and Pepper Grinder. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely did. So I could see Pepper Grinder at 8, Animal Well at 7. I could also see Animal Well at 7, or Animal Well at 8, Pepper Grinder at 7. It's kind of, honestly, it's kind of a coin toss. I don't really mind.
I'm feeling like I have to adjust my personal personal list, having discussed this.
Yeah.
Right, I think maybe Animal Well at 8.
Animal Well at 8, yeah, Pepper Grinder at 7.
I think we're just more...
We're more movement boys than we are...
people.
Yeah, than Thinky Boy. I think we are Thinky Boys, but we are, I think, as a whole, more movie boys than Thinky Boys.
You are way more Thinky than I am. Like, I need so much help with Thinky stuff more often than not.
Yeah, but I think it's more about preference, right? You know,
Yes.
like my preference is movie boy more than Thinky Boy. So
movie and Thinky is so much more fun than Dewey and Talkie.
Dewey and Talkie, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Animal
So
Well
Pepper
at
Grinder
8.
should probably be 7.
Pepper Grinder at 7. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of surprised by Pepper Grinder making that high. But hey, it was good fun. I did enjoy it. So solid little game. All right,
what
cool.
do we like the most out of these three, assuming none of these three are getting as high as the top 3?
Okay, so to recap for people, Princess Peach Showtime at 10, Monkey Ball at 9, Animal Well at 8, Pepper Grinder at 7, and we have 3 games bubbling in the middle here. MEO...
4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, MEO, The Smiling Man, Pokemon TCG Pocket, and SteamWorld Heist 2. I think, from what you have said, SteamWorld Heist 2 probably deserves to be the highest of those 3 on this list.
Yes. It'll probably end up being higher than on my personal list, but that's because there's a lot of non-Nintendo games.
Yeah, of course.
But so I guess that makes sense.
Because I think I really like MEO the Smiling Man. It's mainly for the narrative side of it and the way that it does. Like, it is one of the most shocking, like, bizarre endings to anything Nintendo's ever produced. Like, I was kind of left stunned by it. I think that has an impact.
Shocking in terms of how dark it was, or
that,
how
yes, that. But then
or...
also the delivery method of how that ending is delivered to you is like what the fuck is going on type of situation. So I definitely...
Then your phone starts ringing, and then there's like
yeah, it's a lot of stuff. So I could see TCG Pocket at number 7. Wait, what's our numbers here? This is 6, 5, and 4 actually, isn't it?
6, 5, and 4 now.
Yeah. So I could see TCG Pocket at 6, MEO at 5, SteamWorld Heist 2 at 4. Does that make sense?
I'm happy with that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that's the right place for Pokemon. It's a very good game. It's really good fun.
It's really good fun, but yes, you are right in that at this point in time, most of my engagement with it is opening packs. The thing is, I do want to play more of it. It's just...
But you kind of need to open lots of packs before you get back to deck building, because you want options and flexibility, right?
Exactly.
Like you want that scope.
I think part of the difficulty is you need to have 2 of a card to build a good deck.
More
it's
often
built
than
around,
not, yeah.
It's built around like having 2 Mewtwo EXs or 2 Charizard, because it's all about like having the chance to draw stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what's built around. So
that's one interesting. So the annoying thing is having the maximum of 2 cards. So say you had like Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur in traditional deck. I would normally do, and I think this was the standard of the Game Boy Color game. You'd have 3 Bulbasaurs, 2 Ivysaurs, and 1 Venusaur in your deck.
Yes,
because that's how you draw. You're
more likely to draw the basics first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas in this game, I more normally go 2-2-2.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what most people do is 2-2-2.
Which I don't know. It's weird. Anyway,
it is weird.
Yeah.
It is weird. But
so yeah, I think had this been more of a gamey game where you could engage with it at a gameplay level more consistently, maybe we would have been more higher. Does this game mean that we are never going to get a TCG video game ever again?
Oh yeah, probably not. I think this makes way more money than that ever would. So
yeah,
unfortunately, that's the way it is.
That is
People
a shame.
Look, whales exist, Bally, and there's a collection aspect to this, and there's like gold cards. There's multiple.
Pokemon
there's so many
whales,
things.
Wailords.
Yeah, Wailords. There's a lot of Wailords out there ready to fucking buy to get every single card, and you know it's a whole collector's mentality thing that is really rough on people and their wallets. That's just how it is.
I think maybe
unfortunately.
number 6 is right for it then. It's just...
Yeah, I don't think it breaks
I
the
feel
top 5.
guilty putting it high. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like...
yeah.
oh.
Yeah, you're right. There is a dirty feeling to putting it higher.
There is a dirty feeling to this
I
game.
think not making top 5 is good. It's just outside it. I think it's rewarded.
Would I want either of my sons playing this game?
Oh boy. I mean, yes, so that you could actually
Yes.
play together. so,
But they'll
maybe-
be like, Daddy, I need more Pokemon Gold. I was like, you've just had 20 quid's worth yesterday.
they're going to be like, no, here's the thing, Val, is what's going to happen is they're going to open a pack and it's going to have a thing that you want and you're going to be like, motherfucker. You know? You'll be like, God damn it, you have it and I don't. You know, that's...
Here, check out this Game Boy Color game where
Right,
they have
yeah.
all the cards on it for it. But Daddy, these cards suck. Where are
This
the
looks
X
bad.
Pokemon cards?
Oh dear. Very good. Okay, cool. So TCG Pocket number 6.
Yep.
And then I'm happy with MEO at 5.
Yep.
And SteamWorld Heist 2 at 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Sounds
works.
good to me.
All right.
You
good
think you'll
stuff.
get to SteamWorld Heist 2 next year?
Maybe not next year, but I will eventually get to it. Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the list. I would like to play all the SteamWorld.
Does that mean I need to make it your game trade game? Is that what you're
Oh no! Oh boy. Maybe, I don't know. You could do if you want. We'll see. Okay, cool. So yes, we have 3 games left to rank. We've got Prince of Persia: Lost Crown, the Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, and we have Neva.
Okay.
All really good games. Very good.
I think 3 and 2 is tight.
I think
but-
number 3 is obvious to me.
Oh, I was going to say number 1 is easy.
Oh, interesting. Oh, okay. Because I feel like 1 and 2 is a bit is interesting.
Okay. Right, you
So-
reveal your description. Do you want me
Okay.
to reveal my thought process first or yours?
Oh, okay. Let me go first. So
Okay,
I
you go
think number 3 is quite clearly the Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom.
Okay.
And then I have a hard time between Prince of Persia and Neva.
Oh,
and the reason why is I went back to Prince of Persia and I played that DLC.
Oh.
And fuck, man, that thing is good. It is really good. Like it. If you wanted like hardcore platforming, additional challenges, like this game fucking has your back. It is like, okay, I'm dropping a shadow, I'm double jumping on a wall, I'm like making sure that I spawn back and then have 3 other things in my head at the same time, and like it's a sequence of like a minute of platforming and you do it and it is so fucking satisfying. It feels incredible. It has a boss fight at the end that might be my favorite boss in the game. It is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And it took me maybe an hour. Like I played this entire game on the flight to Prague. So on the way to Prague and then on the way back from Prague. And the entire flight way on the back was me fighting this boss for the whole flight. And it was so fucking satisfying. Like learning the moves, you're parrying every single thing that this boss does to you. And it is a gauntlet, because what they do when you enter the DLC is that they cut your health all the way back down, so you only have 3 or 4 health, and so
Because you did cheese the end of the game with your health boosts and things, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of over level for the end of that game, and so I felt like the last boss wasn't really a challenge. This is what I was looking for. It is so challenging, and it's a piece of shit.
We need to play 9 Souls. People are having a hard time with that game.
That is on my list to play over the holidays
Yes.
as well. I've got to get to 9 Souls. But man, the parrying, the feeling of it, like learning the moves and then doing the special parry that does the special cinematic move, all that stuff. Like I fought this boss for so long, and when I beat it, I felt truly incredible. And it's elevated this game a lot in my mind. And I already loved it. And this is what happens sometimes. You play a game early in the year and you forget how much you loved it. And just going back to it, it's just so fluid. It feels so fantastic to play. And I was kind of bummed it was only 3 hours long, because I was like, oh man, this thing is amazing. And it also, man, this studio has now been shut down. They've been moved to other projects. And I can't believe that we're not going to get more of this, because these guys are on another level. They really get it. So that's why it's really given me pause on like 1 and 2, because I think Neva is also an incredible game, and has everything that we kind of look for in games, really. And yeah, I struggle, I think, with both of those. So it'd be good to hear your thoughts on the 3.
I think we're in agreement. Mine was like close for between 2 and 3 between Neva and Legend of Zelda, and I do think Prince of Persia is a step above.
Interesting. I was expecting you to come in here with Neva as number 1.
I mean, what's incredible about Neva is that it does the artsy fartsy game combined with like the really good feeling combat fighting kind of game. Like I can't name many games like that. I mean, Ori's in there.
I think Ori is like the peak of the mountain for that, because like it's not artsy necessarily.
Probably, yeah, but it leans way more on the action gamey side of thing, more so than the artsiness of like a Neva.
For sure. Like it's an extremely pretty game and it's an extremely polished game, but it's not trying to be an art game in the same way that like Grease or like games such as that are trying to be, where the intention is to be visually striking and to be less mechanically dense but more like experiential. Ori is like a video game as video game, right?
Yeah. So for Neva to have such strong video game moments is kind of what makes it so special, because the story the narrative is fantastic, and like the art is stunning, and the music and the like crescendo, the way the music builds in so many parts of that game, and these incredible boss moments. It's an unbelievably good game. But Prince of Persia is one of the best Metroidvanias of all time. Like it deserves to be alongside Metroid Dread and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Both. I don't think Metroid Dread get beaten by Eastward, but Ori and the Will
Metroid
of the
Dread,
Wisps
I think won. Yes, Metroid Dread got beaten by Eastward,
right?
And then Ori beat Hades. So
before a podcast that loves Metroidvanias so much, I think Prince of Persia is just doing some things that are, like we said at the time, it blends strong combat, strong platforming, and some pretty strong exploration. Maybe a little weak on the exploration, but that's not necessarily what we look for the most in these kinds of games. But platforming and combat, it's immaculate. It's really, really special. And I'm not someone who's gone back to the DLC yet. So like,
you've got to play the DLC, man. It's
right.
So good.
So I think that like it probably has to be at the top, and I would put Neva 2 and Zelda 3. And we've not talked about Zelda yet, but
yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. We've not talked about Zelda. I think Zelda's really good. I enjoyed Zelda tremendously. I think it makes me excited for the future of the series, because it feels like they finally figured out a middle ground between open-ended puzzle solving and more traditional dungeon structure.
Yes. And I think they've solved it in a 2D setting.
Yes. But I do think that's the first step to doing it in a 3D setting, right? If we think about how Link Between Worlds was a stepping stone to Breath of the Wild in its non-linear design, I think that you can take learnings from this game and apply them to the next mainline 3D Zelda and potentially get like an exceptional game that does the incredible open stuff we love, and then also have amazing like dungeon designed challenges that can be flexibly solved, don't have to be so rigid from traditional Zelda standpoint, but also give enough challenge to the player that it's hard for them to figure stuff out, and you have to think about it, and you have to, you know, really lean on your kind of like problem solving skills to do so.
But how many more immaculate overworld songs can they write?
I know. It's
like that clarinet is just so on point. Like,
honestly, the music in this game gives it at least a 2-point bump in terms of the score. Like, I think it's some of the best music in a Zelda game.
The music is always so important to Zelda games and Zelda worlds. Some games more so than others, but
it's a bit of a cheat code in some ways, because I'm like,
I think of that quest with the Zoras, and you got the two races of Zoras, and each of them specialize in different sounds, and then they come together to make music.
And it's a harmony.
This is stunning.
Every time that a Zelda game builds music into its story, I really love that, and I think that was a really nice example of it, for sure.
Yeah, it's really cool. And yes, there were elements where, we need this echo for this, and this echo for this, and by the end you've got like your top 6 that you're rotating between, and it loses a little bit of the shine. I get that, but what started out as like a Zelda editor, like a dungeon maker kind of thing, for them to be bold enough to like, actually we can turn this into a game. Yes, it has a few rough edges at points, but I think I'm so much more glad that they did turn this into a game than not go for it. Like, I think it's awesome that this exists. And you're right, I think it creates not necessarily the blueprint, but enough ideas where you are guaranteed to see some ideas from this game in the next Zelda game, whether that's 2D or 3D, like guaranteed, because experimenting. They're thinking of new ways of evolving Zelda in a post Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom world. That's kind of where we're at, and 2D Zelda needs brought on that journey, and this is the perfect game to kind of bring 2D Zelda on that journey. And yeah, it's very strong. I do think there's a couple of 2D Zeldas I prefer to this game, but it is nonetheless a very, very strong Zelda game, and I had a great time.
Yeah, for sure. I think it deserves to be this high.
Bed for the win.
Love the bed. Shout out to the bed. Obviously, I think a lot of people complain about the UI, both in Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, and this game, in terms of like the scrolling of it all. I don't mind it too much. I feel like I generally was able to get to what I needed when I needed to, and yeah, but it's hard. It's a struggle to have this idea work and try and streamline like the way to do it.
Yeah, I think the one criticism I've heard that I agree with that they could have done to streamline that further was to just have a favorites bar.
Yeah, just make your own one.
Yeah. But more or less, your most used is your favorites. And there are exceptions, but that will often happen. So I do think it's fine. It didn't bother me as much as people talked about it, for sure.
Yeah. And then Neva. I think Neva's just it's a fucking piece of art. It's like, it's so good. I think it's like exactly the length it needs to be. I think it's exactly the story it needs to be. It's exactly the world it needs to. It's just, it feels like it came out fully formed, you know? It's like, this is exactly the vision, and they nailed it at every turn. I think, you know, if we're comparing it to stuff like Ori, it doesn't have the same precision or just like tightness of a game like that, but it's pretty damn close, and I really did enjoy the way that they blended that, not Souls-like, but like adjacent to that, right? It's patient combat. It's about learning animations and dodge rolling, and you know, the big middle of the game boss fight with the red kind of background is one of my favorite sequences that I played in a game this year, just from a pure spectacle standpoint, but also like so visually clear in terms of when you should dodge out the way of an attack and when you have a window to hit. And I think also the escalation of like your relationship with Neva, the wolf, the dog, deer, which we can't decide what it is. Yeah. And yeah, I think just the storytelling it does through animation, and like, oh, she jumped and she missed the thing, and then she's more confident next time and jumps and makes it over. And yeah, I think the way it's all portrayed is just spectacular.
It is very Studio Ghibli, and obviously like Princess Mononoke is a comparison, but like, I think it'll be a long time before another artsy game comes along and does something to quite that level. Like it's very impressive. Oh, and like mechanically there's smart stuff in there as well, where the checkpointing is pretty good.
Yes.
The ability to gain back health when you connect sequential
I really
moves.
like that.
I feel like I've seen similar things in games, but I like the simplicity of you heal when you just don't get hit and you keep it. I like that because it's rewarding the player nice. It's a really nice positive feedback loop in there. So are you feeling Neva should be 2, not 1? It was tight for you.
It was
a
tight.
bit more leaning Prince of Persia.
It's definitely tight. I think on my personal list, Prince of Persia is above Neva still. So I think it makes sense. And again, having just come off the DLC, I'm super high on that DLC. I think that boss fight is like one of my favorite boss fights of the year, just generally, and one I've played in a while. So I strongly recommend people play that. And yeah, I think it really rocks. That game's amazing. I think like I'm not the person to like learn combos and stuff, and so combat for me generally with the regular enemies, I tend to keep quite simple. There's definitely some combat arenas in that DLC that are like, oh boy, this is really putting on the big boy pants. But yeah, I think it's just a brilliant game. And for me, it's not quite at the level of Metroid Dread and Ori, but that's because those are like stratospheric, like incredible games for me. And like, it's very difficult to break through that barrier, but it is like knocking on the ceiling of those games, you know? I think it's just a bit of a personality and like world thing. Like the story never really captured me, and not that that's important in a Metroidvania, but I do think that the vibe and tone and just the settings of Metroid Dread and the Ori games are just a little bit stronger.
Mythical, like Persia, is not quite the heights of, you know, settings of Dread.
And there's some stuff like enemy design that's like, okay, it's not bland, but it's like, you know, it's kind of what you would expect. And I think there is a bit more personality, I think, with those other games, and this one doesn't quite have that, but like that's barely like a thing against it. Like I think it is tremendously good, and like you said, I think it is one of the best Metroidvanias out there. So
that's our 10 games.
That's it. That's the list. Bali, do you want to count down from 10 to 1?
So number 10, Princess Peach Showtime. Number 9, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Number 8, Animal Well. Number 7, Pepper Grinder. Number 6, Pokemon TCG Pocket. Number 5, Emio the Smiling Man. Number 4, SteamWorld Heist 2. Number 3, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Number 2, Neva. Number 1, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown.
All right. I definitely thought that you were going to be pulling for Neva for number 1. That was my guess.
Yeah, I mean, Prince of Persia is just a step above, and Neva is fantastic, but I can't. I'm the type of person who just lets the art carry me away, and it's like it's incredible. It's an amazing game, but I cannot let the art just make it soar above every single other game.
I thought you were gonna let it. I thought you were gonna embrace the art, and just have it go.
And like it's got a good message, and I do like it totally. But shall we throw a spanner in the works and just mention another game? So this is very unofficial.
Mention a couple of games actually, because frankly, I have another one which could have fucked this list up.
You have another one. Okay, so there are some games, and I think this is maybe an issue to do with Switch being near the end of its life cycle, but a game that we both played this year is called Mini Shoot Adventures. So this is a very Nintendo Switch game in its outlook. It's a top-down Zelda-like space shooter. But it didn't come to Switch this year. I think it's weird it didn't come to Switch. Maybe they're just delaying. You know more about this process, MBZ. But
well, I mean, as an independent studio, they didn't have a publisher. They didn't have anyone backing them. They just released it on Steam, and it's a whole process. You have to find a porting studio. You have to make sure everything is good. You have to have dev kits from the partners, from console manufacturers. There's a lot of steps. So if you are just on your own, not doing anything, then yes, it's hard for you to get a game onto a console platform. I'm sure because the game's been successful, people will be in contact and be like, hey, we want to help you port it, we want to help you get it over there. I imagine it will come to Switch 2 or something like that next year. But this happens a lot with small indie games on Steam, is that they are just developed by people and they blow up out of nowhere, like Lethal Company, which is like, oh, okay, like 300 million people playing this or whatever now, and it's like impossible to predict that kind of success, and you don't know what's going to do well. So it's a big risk to be like, oh, I'm going to put this on console, because you don't know if it's going to do well in the first place. So yeah, I totally understand why it was not, but of a lot of games that came out this year, there's multiple with big Nintendo energy. The one that I am truly stunned by is UFO 50. Holy shit, is that the most Nintendo fucking game of all time? And it's not on Switch, and I'm like, it feels wrong, because I would have been fighting for that on this list for sure. Like, I think UFO 50 is tremendous and like an exceptional achievement. And yeah, I think that and Mini Shoot Adventures would be shoo-ins and would make this list a lot stronger. And a lot of the kind of like, we kind of have Princess Peach Showtime on the end of this just cause that wouldn't have happened if we'd had those games available to put on this list for sure.
Yeah. So, where would Mini Shoot probably come?
Number 1.
For me, it's number 1 as well.
Yeah,
it's we'll talk about this in a non-Nintendo show, but yeah, it's very immaculate. It's doing the Zelda thing, but like we've said before, one of the weakest aspects in my view of 2D Zelda is normally the combat, and this game essentially solves that issue by making very fun space shooter like combat, and it does it in a really cool way. Great bosses, great game length, great skill tree. Like, it's got so much going for it, and I'm surprised it didn't make more waves
for sure
earlier this year.
Where would UFO 50 land? I would have shouted at Bally to get it to at least number 3.
Number 3, okay.
Yeah, probably.
I could see it coming probably. I would probably see it ending up between Zelda and SteamWorld.
I think it could end up in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
I think
okay.
It could. But that's a different conversation for a different podcast.
Yes. I think this issue will hopefully vanish for Switch too. I know what you're saying about publishers and issues for Mini Shoot, but I think a big factor must have been Switch 2's coming. Why don't we just do
potentially?
That? I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
So yeah. Also, like, I don't know, Fields of Mystery is not out of early access yet, but that's also a Nintendo Switch ass game. So that potentially next year.
Hades
2, yeah. Hades 2.
It's an early access. That'll be talked about next year, I'm sure.
Exactly. There's a lot of strong stuff coming next year. But, as far as a final year of the Switch goes, It's not too bad. It's
Next
decent.
year's gonna have like Switch 2 launch games.
Oh my god, it's gonna be fucking brutal. Yeah,
What?
it's gonna be very, very good. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, how you feel about this list overall? Do you feel it's all right, Bally? Happy with how things
I
landed?
think considering it's the last year of Switch 1, you couldn't ask for much better, really. But like you've got strong ass indie games. I think Prince of Persia is a fantastic game. It's such a shame that, like you said, that studio's been shut down. And then to have a Zelda game in there as well. It's a good list.
Yeah, I think it's really, really good. So that is gonna do us for this episode of the podcast. Before we get out of here, we can plug some stuff and let you know what's coming up. You can find us on social media. I think by the time this goes out, let's make sure we have a Blue Sky set up, Bally. So
yeah, this is the episode where the Blue Sky account will promote this episode, basically.
I'm going to say we're going to call it TNL Podcast just to make it easy, but if that's taken, then we'll have to figure something out, and it will be in the description. But let's say for now...
Okay, well, now that you've told everyone, someone is going to take
well, they won't hear it by the time... This is a time
good
thing,
point.
You know?
Good point.
It's
yes.
fine. We're not live right now on the internet. It's fine. So yes, hopefully that's the case. You can find me at NBZ over on Blue Sky. Where can they find you, Bally?
I'm at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Unfollow me on Twitter and go and follow me. That's what you should do.
Oh god, my Twitter profile is only gaining more followers as my local thunk kind of impersonation grows, so that's great. Yes, you can obviously find the show in various places on the internet. You can find us on Spotify or on Stitcher. You can download us through podcasting apps of any kind, and that would be good. Find us every couple of weeks in your podcast feed talking about video games. Me coming up with, like Bally said, our Goatee T Dakota, which I'm very excited about. There'll be some good lists there, really strong stuff that we both played this year. And we'll also have our predictions for 2025, what Nintendo is going to do, what Switch 2 is going to be like, and also looking back at our old predictions and realizing that we predicted a bunch of Switch 2 stuff this year that never turned out because they didn't announce it at all. So, yeah, hopefully that is not too depressing, but we'll get to it when we do. And, yeah, that's what you can find us doing. You can, obviously, support the show by going to patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife, where you can monetarily give us money. That's an unnecessary sequence of words, but you can do it, and you can get bonus episodes where we talk about other things like non-Tendo Game of the Year that will also happen. Bally, we'd like to thank some of our patrons.
Yes, we have a brand new patron. Thank you, DJ Nicky Nick. Thank you for your support, but thank you to all of our $10 tier plus patrons. They are Zach S, Thomas, Matthew, Albert, Wicked Gamer UK, Alan, Turtle, Orange Thunder, and Ali T.
Ali T. He must be... I don't even know if he realizes there's no Okami sequel yet.
We better tell him. I don't think he stayed up that late.
Well, I don't think he knows what the Game Awards are or like watches them. So like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure
he's always delayed on the video game news.
So okay, Ali T. This is a real thing that's happening.
It's real.
There's a sequel to Okami happening. Can you believe it?
They've barely started development.
They barely started development, but they're doing a sequel to Okami. Ali T. I hope that this is the way that you found out. Because that would be very funny to me.
And yeah, like MZ said, we got loads of bonus shows on the Patreon, so go and check those out. And MZ, you're going to put out like a little special bonus bits.
Yeah, I did a little audio log when I was at the Game Awards. So if you want to hear that, head on to bonus bits and
gives you all the juicy Phil Spencer goss.
Yes, yes indeed. So yeah, you'll get an interesting look into who I talked to at the Game Awards. Yes, I did talk to Phil Spencer. That is ridiculous, but yes. Anyway, that is going to be everything from us for this episode. Until then, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back soon. Bye-bye.